All right, we're about to dive into one of the most unbelievable and frankly shocking incidents that has ever happened at a public zoo. We've got a high ranking judge, a group of visitors, and a gorilla, and they're all key players in the story we're unpacking today.
Yeah, that is a real, actual quote from the judge at the very center of this story. It's graphic, it's just staggering, and it immediately makes you wonder, how on earth did we get here? And that's the big question, isn't it? That's what this is all about. We're going to piece together this bizarre chain of events step by step, using eyewitness accounts and reports from the scene to figure out how a situation could possibly escalate this far out of control.
So, our story kicks off at the gorilla enclosure. It should have been just a totally normal day. A group of young women were there, watching one of the zoo's big gorillas, but their actions, well, they were about to turn this whole scene into pure chaos.
So, according to one of the women who is right there, their interaction with the animal went from just watching to, well, actively provoking it. And this act right here became the tiny spark that would eventually set off this massive, chaotic fire. Okay, so let's move on to the next phase, because this is where things went from a really, really misguided prank to a legitimate, terrifying emergency. The situation just spun out of control, leading directly to the gorilla's escape.
So, check this out. It wasn't just one thing, it was a perfect storm. The initial teasing was bad enough, but then you add in a zookeeper's offhand comment, this rumor that started spreading, and then the final critical failure in zoo security. That improperly secured cage was the last piece of the puzzle that let an already agitated animal get free.
And this quote from the zookeeper, wow, it gives us such a crucial piece of the puzzle, right? The gorilla's complete lack of experience was a huge factor here, and you can just feel the keeper's frustration, knowing how unpredictable this whole thing was about to become.
So the gorilla's out, and the scene just erupts into panic. The crowd is running, screaming, and eyewitnesses are left with this incredibly vivid and, frankly, alarming image of the animal's state. Its visible arousal made the threat feel immediate and very, very real.
Now, as the whole crowd just scattered, two people were left behind, right in the path of the escaped gorilla. And this is where the story takes its most dramatic and terrifying turn.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This shows us what was going through their minds. You have a 75-year-old woman who, in a moment of pure terror, has this weirdly poetic thought about her age. And then you have the 52-year-old judge who feels completely safe based on pure logic. He was wrong. So wrong.
Against all odds, and completely defying the judge's own logical conclusion, the gorilla walked right past the elderly woman and went straight for him. And that shocking decision set the stage for the assault. The judge's ordeal was just harrowing. His theory was that his black judicial robe looked like a dress, causing the gorilla to mistake him for a female. He was grabbed by the ear, dragged into the bushes, and witnesses actually reported hearing him cry out, "Mom." And in this moment of just dark, twisted irony, some people watching said his terror reminded them of an innocent man he'd once sentenced to death.
So in the aftermath, once the immediate danger was over, the focus totally shifted. The public, the experts, everyone started asking a really critical question. Who or what was to blame for this horrifying mess?
And the whole debate pretty much broke down into three main camps. Was it the visitor's fault for starting the whole thing? Was it a massive failure of zoo security because of that unsecured cage? Or was this just a tragic, unpredictable result of a wild animal's basic instincts?
And, of course, experts like Dr. Lisa Brown weighed in. They suggested it wasn't just one thing, but a mix of human error and institutional failure. Think about it. The provocation could have easily triggered a dominance display in an already frustrated animal, and the escape gave it a sudden, chaotic chance to act on it. It was just a brutal reminder that these are powerful, wild animals, not entertainers. Eventually, the woman whose actions kicked off this whole chain reaction did come forward and express how sorry she was. Her statement kind of shifts the focus, toward learning from this disaster so it can never, ever happen again.
And that brings us to the final part of our story, the official response. So how did the zoo handle this? What changes did they actually promise to make? Well, the zoo announced a very clear three-step plan. They said they'd do a full review of all their safety protocols, they'd enhance the physical security of the enclosures, and, this is a big one, they'd improve how they educate visitors on how to act around the animals. But here's the official statement from the zoo director, and I want you to pay close attention to that last part. The claim that no one was harmed. I mean, that directly contradicts the judge's own horrible account, right? So now you've got this conflicting story between the official zoo line and the victim's actual experience.
And so this entire bizarre, disturbing incident leaves us with a really profound question. When we put wild animals in cages for our own entertainment and education, what happens when human responsibility fails, both from the visitors and the institution, and collides with raw animal instinct? It's a super complex issue with no easy answers, and it's one this story just forces us all to think about.